Hey, it's me, Raika. Today we're going to have a look at Khazard, the frozen terror from the Hypogean faction. Now, this hero wears cloth-based gear, is part of the mage class, and his primary role is to provide a significant amount of control through his freeze-like effects. So let's have a look at his abilities. His ultimate skill, Frozen Mist. Khazard explodes, dealing initial damage to all enemies on the battlefield, causing the battlefield to become enveloped in a frozen mist. Now, this is a permanent effect that lasts for 14 seconds, as we can see over here. Even if Khazard dies during this particular ultimate, this frozen mist will rain down from the sky and freeze enemies as it goes along. While the frozen mist is present, enemies will suffer damage every second, and enemies with lower health will become frozen until they are recovered to a higher level of health, or the mist disappears. Level 2. Enemies' health recovery rates are reduced by 70%, so this is the amount of healing that they are able to receive from allies. Level 3. The duration of frozen mist has been increased from 14 to 16%. Now, this is a effect or screen-wide effect, so even if the ally is not particularly on the battle, they'll still be affected from this particular skill over here. His next ability, Glacial Shards. Khazard fires 3 glacial shards in multiple directions. Each glacial shard deals damage equal to 150% to the enemy which is struck, also causing them to lose 50 haste points for 4 seconds. Any enemies that are struck by multiple ice shards will be dealt 50% less damage by subsequent shards after the second shard. The level 2 damage is increased to 170%, and 3 and 4 increase the amount of shards fired. So as we can see over here, these shards have a chance to freeze enemies. In addition, they also will lose. His next ability, Glacial Shards. Khazard fires 3 glacial shards in multiple directions. Each glacial shard deals 150% damage to the enemies which are struck, also causing them to lose 50 haste points for 4 seconds. Any enemy that is struck by multiple shards, every single subsequent shard will deal 50% less damage for every second shard that is fired into them. Level 2, damage is increased to 170%. The level 3 and 4 increase the amount of shards that Khazard fires at once. Now, these shards play an extremely important role, especially with his signature item and his furniture, as he can freeze enemies for a couple of seconds while they are frozen with these particular shards. His next ability, Frozen Beam. Khazard fires an icy beam at an enemy, which deals 220% damage to them and causes them to become frozen for 3 seconds. The level 2 and 3 increases damage to 270%, and the 13 engravings, the duration that the enemy is frozen is increased from 3 to 4 seconds. His next ability, Frost Serpent. So this is his little pet that follows him around. While there is frozen mist present on the battlefield, that is his ultimate, Khazard's Frozen Serpent attacks an enemy with its ice breath, dealing 160% damage to them, causing them to become frozen for 2 seconds. When Khazard uses his Glacial Shards, that is his normal ability over here, skill, his Frost Serpent will deal additional attack to the nearest enemy target, knocking them backwards and dealing 200% damage to them. As the effects of Frozen Beam are about to wear off, this is this ability over here, as we can see, that is the Frozen Ice Tomb. The Frost Serpent will smash the frozen enemy target, dealing damage equal to 20% of the health they have already lost. And the 60 engravings, while there is frozen mist present on the battlefield, Khazard's Frost Serpent attacks an enemy with its ice breath, dealing 180% damage to them and causing them to become frozen for 2 seconds. So this is 160 increased to 180%. So let's have a look at his signature item. Now, this is his bread and butter right over here. The reason why he's mostly used is for the Frozen Cursed buff that he applies to the enemies. When it is activated, it reduces enemies' dissolve by 30 points. So what is dissolve? Dissolve is the percentage of increased negative effects applied to the enemy. Now, this is a permanent debuff, and even if Khazard dies immediately as soon as he walks onto battle, this will continually persist and remain in effect on the enemies. The normal attacks that deal critical damage now have a freezing effect that lasts for 1 second. So as we can see, any of his abilities can have this effect. Normal attacks that deal critical strike now have a freezing effect that lasts for 3 seconds. That's from 1 to 3 seconds. And the 30 signature item reduces all enemies dissolve or increases the effectiveness of negative effects by 60 points or 60%. So let's have a look at his furniture over here. Solid ice. When using the skill Glacial Shard, if a single enemy is struck by 2 shards or more, the target becomes completely frozen for 1.5 seconds. So as we can see, he can provide a massive amount of control through various of his abilities over here. The 9 out of 9, any enemies frozen by one of Khazard's skills will receive 15% more damage. So this is an excellent buff to have, especially if your allies deal a lot of damage to the enemies. So let's have a look at how he does in battle. So we're going to start off with the wooden training dummy over here. So as soon as he walks onto battle, he'll start firing. There's these 7 shards that he fires. There's the ice beam. The enemy is frozen. And as we can see, his little pet will continually attack the enemies. Now he'll summon his pet from time to time, and they'll continually attack the enemy. The enemy is frozen once again. Let's have a look at his ultimate. So this is a screen-wide effect where the entire battlefield is frozen, and when enemies reach low health, they'll get completely frozen. As we can see, 3 enemies got frozen at the same time while his ultimate is present. So if we change multiple ultimates back to back, the enemies can have a permanent stun or freeze effect applied to them for the entire duration of battle. So let's have a look at how he does at a much higher level deficit. Now this over here is 130 level deficit, and as we can see, Khazard's main role is to provide control for his team over here. Now he does not deal a lot of damage. However, through his signature item and furniture, this enables your other allies such as Mehira over here to deal more damage and control the enemies for a longer period of time. So as we can see over here, Khazard's on the battle, and he'll immediately start firing his shards over here. One of the enemies is already frozen. So when Mehira over here charms the enemies, they will be charmed for a much longer duration of time. This will allow your other allies to deal more damage and allow them to be more effective using their control effects. So for example, Zorav's stun or any other abilities over here, this will allow your allies to be more effective with their control effects. So what is the minimum investment that I would recommend into Khazard over here? Now I would highly recommend getting his 30 signature item. The reason for this is because of this control effect increase. This allows other allies or enables other allies to be more effective using their control effects. In addition, these freeze effects further increase the survivability of your allies, as if the enemy is stunned, they cannot use their abilities and they cannot do damage to your allies. Then the other item I would highly recommend is getting his 9 out of 9 furniture, as this will enable 2 components, allowing you to freeze enemies multiple times. And in addition, this will increase the amount of damage that they take. Now, this component over here, the 9 out of 9, is mainly used for Nightmare Corridor and Cursed Realm effects, as this extra 15 damage is a significant buff that the enemies will take more damage as your allies or your pets deal damage to the enemies.